All right, man. Now that the Olympics are over, and first of all, congrats to Team USA winning that gold. That was a crazy historical run. I got a video about our legends coming soon. But now that it's over, we can begin preparing for the 2025 NBA season. It was truly an epic experience watching our childhood heroes unite to defeat some of the world's greatest talents, like easily one of my favorite basketball moments. But unfortunately, in about 2 months, whatever their realities are, basketball team-wise in the NBA, they have to return to. Last week, in the mix of everything going on, Lauri Markkanen signed his extension, and he was pretty much the last big domino to fall. So the teams seem to be somewhat set, and even the schedule is leaking as I speak. So let's not waste any more time. These are the players, in my opinion, that aren't in the most ideal situations.
Do you want to be that person that says, I'm staying with one franchise for my entire career, or is it just contingent upon where the franchise is?
Yeah, I mean, I can clearly say I want to be a Warrior for life. That's always been my goal. But like you said, life and especially life in the NBA, it is a wild environment, and things change quickly, and the league has changed quickly. So we're trying to adapt and evolve. Of course, the goal is always to be to finish my career with one team.
I can't lie. I was happy at the time when Steph won his championship 2 years ago for a multitude of reasons. Mainly the little finals MVP monkey finally getting off his back and all the stupid ass narratives that surrounded such a pioneer's legacy. But now, 2 years later, I'm even more happy because I don't know if he can get back to that, especially in that jersey. And that's tough for me to say. Golden State, even through all the trials, all the tribulations, the different lineups, draft and bust, they were able to squeeze all the juice left out of that big three lemon. But currently, they're in a very odd spot. Klay in Dallas may not be the most significant loss on the court, especially if Buddy can still provide enough spacing for Steph and Dre to do what they do. I know for whatever reason, it didn't really work out for Buddy in Philly, but since he entered the league, the only players that shoot 40% with the amount of attempts that he has is literally the Splash Bros, Kyrie, and him. So that may not be the biggest loss, especially since Klay isn't quite the defender he used to be, but for the morale of the team, it just has to be. It has to be weird. Then the Lauri Markkanen deal not falling through, it essentially made that team stay put in a West that to me clearly got better. Last year, I believe we had 10 teams finish above 500 for the first time, I think ever, without Ja Morant. The Warriors couldn't even make the playoffs in that West. I'm not mad at them for not blowing up their entire roster to get Lauri, because Danny Ainge does have a history of finessing teams, and he's typically not who you want to deal with. Also, his asking price seemed to be very unreasonable, and I'm not even sure how much better they would have gotten championship-wise with Lauri. But that team, they didn't get much better, and Steph, he doesn't really have that much time. They missed on Paul George. They literally just missed on Lauri Markkanen. Now, since he signed this extension, he can't be traded next year. So now it feels like Golden State is putting all their chips into Jonathan Kuminga, who I love, to take another massive leap. And I don't like that plan for Steph or Dre because, like I said, those guys don't have much time. Also, it feels like Steph, at least, he's tied forever to Golden State because he's tagged as that one loyal one left in the league. So at 36, he's really in a tough spot. Giannis, he's a player that I'm really starting to worry about, like dead ass. I don't care that he hasn't really played in May in like 2 years. This man is still, to me, the second best player in the league behind Jokic, and I don't want him to get left in the dust with a stagnant old team. Now, I'm not blaming Milwaukee because in his prime, they've tried to be aggressive and they've done stuff that made sense and it's worked. Moving Eric Bledsoe to ultimately get Jrue Holiday and win a championship in their first year. This move hasn't really aged well so far, but moving Jrue Holiday to get Dame, it made sense at that time and we all did love it. But it did weaken their identity, which was always defense. And if Dame can't make up for that offensively, being the crazy, potent offensive weapon he's always been, well, the move is going to age like trash. Number one, they unintentionally gave Jrue to their biggest opponent. And since, the East has gotten significantly better. Now for Milwaukee, they just feel old, stuck, and somewhat like they peaked in 2021. Chris Middleton was 29-30 when they won that championship, and he played a huge role in that run. He was so good, some people was even calling Giannis the Robin. But since, it feels like he's been aging in dog years. His knee still doesn't seem quite right, and this summer, reportedly, he had 2 ankle surgeries on both feet. That don't sound good. Milwaukee essentially has all their money tied to this older vet core. And now that Mikal Bridges went to New York with the Nova Knicks and Paul George came back east and the Celtics, they're still going to be there. I'm not sure if a 34-year-old Dame and Giannis, if that's enough now. I don't want Giannis's prime years to be wasted with this current situation that just doesn't feel the most ideal. I love him, but it just doesn't feel the best for his career. It almost feels like Brandon Ingram is forgotten about when we talk about the younger modern stars. I know he's not the youngest, but he's only 26, 27. Currently, he's in a tough situation, and it seems like now that we know Laurie is staying put in Utah, Brandon's market is damn near frozen. Golden State has made it clear they don't really want Brandon Ingram. Brandon is still one of the most lethal, efficient mid-range scorers, but his style isn't really preferred in today's league. This is somewhat of the same problem DeMar DeRozan has faced and why his market hasn't always been the best. In fact, in the last 2 years, these are the highest scorers shooting under 4 3-pointers a night. The majority of them are bigs, or they're anomalies like Shea and Jimmy who make up for it for how frequently they get to the line. Also, Brandon hasn't been the healthiest these past 2 years, so him wanting a max deal from New Orleans when his style really doesn't even fit the best with Zion and his market is damn near frozen, it's a tough situation. When I look at teams that did it right, like OKC, Houston, even Orlando now, I can't help but feel bad for Cade Cunningham. Bro, this team has been in a standstill rebuild for years, and it doesn't feel like it's getting any better. Last year, we know they embarrassingly lost 28 consecutive games, and even through that, I'm still a big fan of Cade. I don't think it was his fault at all. Fresh off basically an entire second year off with the injury, playing beside some of the worst spacing in the league, his efficiency still improved, and he's playing with an organization with no direction or really stability. I'm not bashing the young players because they don't draft themselves, but more so the fits. Last year, they drafted Asar Thompson, who's great defensively and very athletic, but in a shooting league, he provides zero spacing. I don't know if Detroit is still stuck in the thousands. I don't know, but please look around the league and what's actually working. Look at Boston, look at Dallas, look at the teams that's actually winning. You need some type of spacing around your best players. Again, not bashing the youngin because he probably can be a really good player in the league and he ain't draft himself. But they drafted with the 5th pick this year, Ron Holland, another athletic defensive wing that doesn't really help their current situation. They desperately need spacing, and that's just not what he provides right now. Just look at their last few draft picks outside of Cade. Nothing to really help their number 1 pick, Cade, thrive as a playmaker, which he ultimately is. Gave Monty Williams the biggest contract ever just to fire him a year later. Questionable draft picks. I do like that they finally got some vets on their squad now with Tobias Harris and Tim Hardaway Jr., but I don't like the direction of that team, and I do feel sorry for promising talent like Cade. I'm gonna keep it short when I talk about Trae Young, but when I look at that 2018 draft, that's what makes me feel bad for Trae Young right now. The worst part about when we get new talent is the old current talent damn near gets bashed and somewhat forgotten about. It's almost as if what they do now is like irrelevant. Like, oh yeah, he averages 26 and 11. Oh yeah, who cares? Trae got off to such a fast start team success wise, and now it feels like his whole class has caught up and it's completely tanked his value. Trae was the first one to make the conference finals. I know Luka popped off as the immediate best player in the draft, but team-wise, success-winning-wise, Trae took the baton first. And since it's like he's been in quicksand, and look at everyone else in his class. Luka just made the finals last year. Shea was second in MVP voting, and he had the first seed, and they're favorites to make the finals this year. Jalen Brunson has now arrived as damn near a superstar, and his team now is a real threat with them getting Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges was also in that draft. Seeing Atlanta have the first pick in the draft and a blown up experiment with Murray that never really made sense, and Trae's trade value looks somewhat invisible, I can't help but to feel somewhat sorry for him. It feels like we can say this about damn near anybody if we want to, but he truly feels like the most underrated player in the league now. I'll never forget about 2021 Zach LaVine. Like, I'll never forget about it. He was special. Bro's game just looked so damn polished, and offensively, he was like the perfect blend of athleticism with a jump shot on all three levels. Remember that game versus Atlanta where he had like 39 in the first half? Like I said, bro, he was special, healthy. But now, only at like 28, he feels like one of the most unwanted, undesired players in the league on a terrible contract. To me, his downfall hasn't even really been much of his fault. DeMar and Vooch joined that team, and since that affected his numbers, which is expected, he sacrificed. Lonzo hasn't been there, and that team looked great when he was. And to me, Zach, he's a player that needs a true point to just thrive and do what he does well. Also, Zach, he's been injured nonstop, and it's always hard to work yourself back and get into a flow when you're always recovering from an injury. The year before last, when he actually had some continuity playing basketball and not always coming back from an injury, post All-Star break, he looked like Zach LaVine, averaging 27, efficiencies high, all that. Then last year, he comes back and basically misses the entire season, which ultimately hurts his value. So now he has to awkwardly go back to Chicago, where he probably doesn't want to be, and it's just a very rough situation for a player like him. I hope he gets back. And lastly, Jimmy Butler. I feel like I talk about him in this very same light every single year, and I feel like a broken record, but nothing changes, so I have to. It looks like going forward, that's going to be Bam's team now, and it should be. He just got the extension. He's balling at the Olympics. He's the most available. He's 27 with a ton of experience and success already, so it does make sense. Pat Riley damn near just came out and said it's hard to commit to Jimmy again long-term with his age and his health, so this might be his last year there. This is basically Jimmy's last year under contract, and why I always feel bad for him is because, well, he's given them so much without much in return. 3 conference finals appearances, 2 finals appearances, and it always feels like Miami, they miss on every single big name. Next year, they're basically running it back with the exact same big 3 they had 4 years ago when they made the finals: Bam, Tyler Hero, and Jimmy Butler. I really like Jaime Jaquez, and he will continue to get better, but they never make the big moves. And like I said about Milwaukee, the East got better. You can't stay stagnant. If you guys like this video, comment any players that I left off this list and tell me how you feel about my list. I will be doing the best players in the best positions right now as well, so stay tuned for that. Follow my social media sites, turn on post notifications, do all that great stuff, guys. And until next time, as always, stay tuned.